with us in the studios now to discuss the questions you have raised and more. Let's welcome Obafela Bank-Olemoh, is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Education Intervention. Mr. Bank-Olemoh, I'd like to have you this.
Thanks, nice to be here.
Also here with us in the studios is Rushnan Mutaza, Deputy Rep of UNICEF in Nigeria. Rushnan, delighted to have you this morning.
Good morning. Yes, lovely to be here.
Okay.
And I also have in the studio with us here Dr. Nadi Albino, Senior Advisor, Partnership Generation Unlimited. Welcome to the program, Dr. Nadi.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Once again, our pleasure to have you. Let's just hear from, as it were, the horse's mouth, the Generation U. That's Generation Unlimited or GenU. That's the new buzz with regard to fresh job opportunities for Nigerian youths. What is this all about in the first instance, Bank-Olemoh?
GenU, Generation Unlimited, is a United Nations-backed program that was launched in 2018, targeted at the youth. But the beauty of GenU is the collaboration it's supposed to bring into place. United Nations, private sector organizations, government, with the youths themselves at the center, trying to ensure that whatever we do speaks to the youths. One of the major issues we hear from our young generation is we're not listening to them. So GenU has been created to ensure that the interventions we're doing are youth-focused, youth-centric, and the youths themselves were involved in building those interventions. So that's what GenU is supposed to be, create for us. When you drill down to GenU Nigeria, the focus is over the next 10 years, by 2030, how can we ensure that 20 million Nigerian youths are engaged effectively? You see the numbers are huge for a country of our size. Those are huge numbers, but those are the kind of things we're trying to achieve with GenU.
Well, Dr. Nadi Albino, tell us more about Generation Unlimited. You've been on ground since 2018, and of course in so many countries. What more could you add to what the last speaker said?
Yeah, thank you. And I think Fela has articulated that very, very well. As we say, Generation Unlimited, really, if you remember 1961, President John F. Kennedy in his inaugural speech said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Basically, what we're saying to young people globally, come and join us and partner with us, and let's make the difference that you want to see. Generation Unlimited really is about bringing all different stakeholders together with young people. We're seeing a demographic boom globally, but particularly on the African continent. And it's really imperative that we begin to bring young people on board to engage with us and to be partners in this journey to transform and develop sustainably.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Albino, for your opening comments. Rushnan of UNICEF, what's the role of UNICEF in all of this?
Well, thank you very much. As was mentioned also from my colleague from New York, UNICEF has been leading this as a secretariat for the Generation Unlimited, and it was a recognition, as was mentioned 2-3 years back, looking at the youth bulge, the young people who have potential, who have aspiration, how to make it work. So that is where it started, as UNICEF being the secretariat of the Generation Unlimited, and which from global level has been translated to many countries, and now Nigeria has launched it. So UNICEF, as you know, that are about children, and children we define as 18, but UNICEF would like to look at young people, because the transition from 18 to 24 and to the employment field is much wider. So that's where UNICEF has taken a lead with other UN agencies, and particularly what is mentioned, this is the first time a platform that is created where young people are equal partners with private sector, government, and the UN.
Let's have a background to this very issue at stake. Rushnan, UNICEF came up with this thing in 2018, and it's all over. Maybe some few countries have really launched it. In Africa, we have some few countries, some have started benefiting, like Niger, and it's all over the world. Give us a global background, you know, to this very generation unlimited before we narrow it down to Nigeria now and get the whole topic, you know, discussed.
No, the global background is, I think we are all familiar with the statistics of the young people, and it is the right thing to do at the right time. If we are not addressing the young people globally across the continent, across every continent, then we would not make headway. We are in a different area of digital learning, new ways of looking at things. We have to be partners with them to make the reality of young people what they want, what they are good at, not thinking from the adult's point of view. So the challenges, you know, young people are facing nowadays, of course, one that comes out very much everywhere is employment, having the skills, how they can become entrepreneurs, how they can learn better. So from global level, it has been a recognition that one needs to put their energy together in a platform where we can have a concrete narrative about what we are investing for young people around the world.
What is the content of the Generation U?
The Generation Unlimited, of course, it depends on, and my colleague from headquarters can say more, but it depends on the context specific, what is the need of young people. So if I come back to Nigeria, in Nigeria we have not decided what is needed by young people, but young people decided what is needed for them. And then what came out on their aspiration on top was there, of course, they want opportunities, because the entire Nigeria, all young people are not accessing the same opportunities. They want quality education, they want skills so that they can be employable. We had done a survey with young people and these areas came out. So Generation Unlimited Nigeria is looking at 4 pillars, if I may say. It is more around education and skills, entrepreneurship, employability and empowerment. So it's the 4 E's that we are addressing, and the 4 E's are being addressed by, you know, primarily by digital learning and by workforce employment and empowerment, which is participation of young people having their voice heard.
Dr. Nadi, this background is very much elaborate. Let's look at the 4 E's now, and the education, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and employment. That has been, I mean, the Generation Unlimited has been launched in Nigeria just some 3-4 days ago, and you're right here with us. We really want to get the details of these 4 E's. How are they going to go through to the youths?
Okay, the 4 E's are defined by Nigeria. So every country will define the areas of focus based on the consultations that they have with young people. So at a global level, we look at skilling for employment, skilling for entrepreneurship, and skilling for social impact, and that's about engagement with young people. At country level, every country then defines their framework based on the needs and the consultations that they have with young people. So Kenya, for instance, would have a different framework that they have defined. Their focus is very much on skilling for employment, ensuring that young people are prepared for the workforce. They have huge numbers that are getting into the job market every year, and they are not finding jobs. India, on the other hand, also focuses on skilling, but also a lot on engagement for young people, particularly through volunteerism, etc. And that was really hyped up in the recent COVID crisis in India. So the frameworks are defined differently based on how the countries make their decision in terms of the consultations that they have with young people.
Okay, Dr. Nadia, I still want to stay with you before we bring in Bank-Olemoh, so that you clarify one other point. It appears that job opportunities solely would not be the end of this whole program. In other words, you want to create a total youth, as it were, so that it's not just in terms of having jobs or having employment. Once you are empowered, you're also in a position to function effectively in your society and also be a change agent. I'm saying this in relation to the caption that we have, which says new job opportunities for Nigerian youth. Might as well just say Generation U or Generation Unlimited, new opportunities for young persons. What is the expected role of the partners in this whole program? Because earlier Bank-Olemoh was talking about, say, you have the United Nations, of course, through the instrumentality of UNICEF. You have government, which is to say the national government, and then you have the private sector. What is the expected role of these three partners in the program?
Okay, so first of all, UNICEF, as Rushnan explained, is the secretariat. The entire UN body comes together under the Generation Unlimited umbrella. Different organizations, UNFPA, UNDP, etc., play different roles in terms of the mandates that they hold. They, of course, bring expertise, they bring resources that can match with government resources and with private sector resources to help us to get scale and impact. Now, the private sector and public sector, government and private sector both create opportunities. Public sector in particular looking at sustainable environments or looking at policies, etc., that will enable some of these opportunities to take place. Private sector bring in resources, but they also create jobs because they contribute to economic growth, and within that you create jobs. Young people themselves have a very important role to play, not only in defining what the agenda should be, but because they have solutions. They live the challenges, they live the problems. They are able to sit down at the table with an equal voice with these partners and say, these are some of the solutions that we think you should invest in because it will actually make a difference in our lives. So when we talk about quality education, what do we mean by quality education? How do we then engage with government, curriculum developers and improve the pedagogy so that we provide the kind of education that actually helps young people, just as you say, to become productive and engaged members of society. So it's not always about being employed by somebody else, but also being able to be entrepreneurial enough to create employment opportunities for yourself and your peers. So what we're looking at is a holistic, comprehensive development of young people, but with young people on the table with an equal voice. We tend to say in Generation Unlimited, talent is universal, opportunities are not.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nadi. Let's hear from you, Bank-Olemoh. This very initiative could be a response to the youth speaking to Nigerians and Nigerian authorities, and we could see that in the NSAS issue that took place some few months ago. And it seems as if the government is now listening and listening not only it alone, but even the global community is watching and listening to what Nigerian youths are saying. At the launch, there were so many of stakeholders, in this very enterprise when it was launched on Monday. Tell us, is it true to assume that Generation Unlimited, it's a response to youths in Nigeria talking?
Definitely. I think any country that doesn't take its youth population serious is not going anywhere. The reality of the world today is that, like we all know, we have a youth bulge, which can add value to your nation or put you in big trouble. The NSAS protest in itself speaks to that. The recent protest we saw in South Africa was also an eye-opener. The reality is that we have to engage our youth population in a pragmatic way, and they must feel that they're involved in doing that. So for us, for the federal government of Nigeria and also all the state governments, is that reality we're trying to engage in different things. You know very well that, for this administration, it's been a deliberate effort to engage our youths, but whatever partnership we can get, is fully welcomed. We've always believed that government must think big, and one of the things that we're as a country that excites us about GenU when we're crafting all this is the numbers we're targeting. Listen, we can't solve big problems with small ideas, and we can't solve big problems with trying to tweak the system. Sometimes you have to rewrite the system itself, and it's a deliberate effort to do that. One of the strong things for us as a nation, we are the largest economy in Africa. So we have a corporate Nigeria that is strong enough to partner with us to make these things happen. And like you said, one of the key things that excites me is the commitment of corporate Nigeria, to ensuring GenU is a success. We can't make it a success without them. And we have firm commitments from Airtel, from Jobberman, from Microsoft, from both internationally and locally to ensure that these numbers are not just numbers, but you see the average Nigerian's life get better. And that's what we must do. Implement in such a way, discipline of execution, to ensure that the average Nigerian gets these skills, and becomes a better person.
Bank-Olemoh, in Nigeria today, there is a plethora of schemes and programs targeting young persons, all kinds of skill acquisition, pet projects being undertaken by state governments and all that. And you also have side by side with it the social investment programs of the federal government. How does Generation U, that's unlimited, fit into all of this or displace pre-existing programs?
It doesn't displace, it complements. Listen, like I said, our reality is the numbers. The numbers are huge. Like you said, what we need to do is not to say that we don't want more interventions. Our key thing is to ensure that we're implementing them well and they're complementing themselves. I think that's the key challenge we have here. And that's that's one of the reasons one of the beauty about GenU are the collaborators coming to make it happen. We have huge numbers in our country. We have a youth dividend we must engage, and we must engage them deliberately. So for me, the more interventions we have, I'm excited about them. Our job as a federal government also is to ensure that we work with the key stakeholders to ensure they're well implemented at different levels. And like I said at the launch, when we're speaking to it, we're excited to start GenU Nigeria. But beyond the excitement, the key thing for everybody, and yourself, myself, every key stakeholder, is the implementation. To ensure that we get it done, to ensure that the average Nigerian gets the skills and impacts our economy, positively.
When you talk about implementation,
Nadabo, one of the key challenges that we have is implementation of policies and programs. So that's why I'm asking this question, to say that, look, you keep hearing about these things. Since the advent of the Fourth Republic, for instance, governors' wives have made skill acquisition. They are focal point. Not that you are familiar with that. You go to some states today, you see abandoned structures with the signboard that is rotting away and say something skill acquisition center. So that's why I say, how does this fit in, or how does this displace or complement? Yes.
Let me answer that. I speak with a lot of experience. My last 4 years, I was special advisor to Governor Lagos on education. So I understand government, I understand the challenges. For me, the best way to implement anything is a private sector driven implementation. Primarily because the private sector is, in some areas, more efficient than us government in getting things done. And more often than not, if well monitored, they'll do it cheaper. It's very important. GenU, as we see today, is private sector driven. We're working with private sector organizations to get these interventions done. So, for example, Airtel's primary job is to connect our schools. Our pilot is in Lagos and in Kano. The plan is to connect schools and give them free data in those schools. That's one of the things Airtel has committed to doing. So we're working with Airtel at that level. So you can track that. That's easy. When we do that, you see the schools have been connected, and we can tell you this number of students are being impacted. We're working with Jobberman, that the biggest job sites, probably in Africa or sub-Saharan Africa. The skills, what are we doing with Jobberman? Simple and straightforward. Jobberman, expand your portal to ensure we are able to reach another 500,000 people. We give them job skills over the next 2-3 years. So the intervention we're having is specific, directed, and we're working through private sector to ensure it works. So that way, like you said, it's not just a signboard that doesn't impact anybody, but you can see the lives of the average Nigerian getting better.
Rushnan Murtaza, I'm excited about this topic because at the beginning, Kinsley, when you say new job opportunities for Nigerian youths, you know, if Nigerian youths have been watching NTA and of course hearing this, they must have said that, you know, here we are, we're going to get it now. Murtaza, Nigeria has a very big population, and that's mainly talking about the youths who've made about maybe over 50% of it. They are the ones talking. We need jobs, we need jobs, we need jobs. And I believe that could be why Generation Unlimited, you know, came to Nigeria and it was launched. How do you see this, you know, talking to Nigerian youths? Those watching and listening to us now might have been so much excited. Now, what would you tell them that Generation Unlimited is here? Here you are, new jobs are around.
You're absolutely right, because the whole Generation Unlimited, and as was mentioned by Fela and others, is that we are bringing all the resources and the energy together towards what the aspirations of young people are, which is not only job, it's also about their own skilling. It's about the opportunities that they get also to access soft skills. So these are all building blocks for them to become employable or to start entrepreneur businesses themselves. So I would say that there is good time ahead. And what is happening, and I would not say that it is the first time that is happening, it is bringing all the energy and having a concrete narrative for young people together, where we see 20 million young people in 10 years' time will get either quality learning, either will get skills for to become employable. So it is also up to them, and that's why this platform is so unique, that it's a partnership with them so that they also take charge and also keep us on track that whether this is happening for them. So I find that of course it takes a longer time to find a solution, and we have invested a lot, and what was mentioned, private sector has full energy behind it, young people have full energy behind it, and it is good time ahead. But also I would say that, you know, no interviews actually finishes here without talking about COVID. COVID had also given us a lot of challenges, but also opportunities to look at things differently, which particularly is education is one of them. It's not only education within the boundaries of a school. We have learned that that would not work. We have to have other opportunities, and this is where young people are coming. Young people are much more savvier than all of us sitting here in using digital, in using their phones. So how do we also take these kind of curriculum into a platform, different skill sets, where they don't have to be physically in a training to do the skills, but can acquire skills by online different programs. This is what different opportunities are there. It's up to also them to take up this opportunity, and it's also up to us how we connect them for a better future for them.
Bank-Olemoh is saying that a lot of partners, you even give specific example with the Airtel, the Joberman, all these are coming in with their own, you know, expertise and resources to see how GenU can really employ the youth. UNICEF, this is an idea of UNICEF, United Nations through the UNICEF. It came up with this idea. Is UNICEF just coming in with idea?
Well, UNICEF is creating a platform, because many a time you don't have that platform to know what is happening where. So if you look at UNICEF has already, we have a program called the U Report, and we already have 3.7 million young people registered on that, where we constantly hear what is happening in the community, what is their need, and how can they also access all these skills that are out there. This was not there. So UNICEF is providing opportunities, I would say, and platforms where young people can connect and see a coherent development by acquiring skills and UNICEF is helping through this platform, UNICEF and the UN and everyone. I think we are equal partners in this platform, while we are the secretariat, but we are equal partners. That how then, if they've got the skills, there's a platform called YOMA, where supported by UNICEF globally and here, where we will look at the young people getting all that skills and how Joberman can be connected with them so that they can be, where they need to be placed, they can bring that information. So I think we are more playing as a facilitating partner, creating that opportunity where everybody can come together.
All right, thank you very much, Rushnan Mutaza. Let's bring in again Dr. Nadi. Dr. Nadi, even at the pilot stage that we're kicking off here in Nigeria, who qualifies to participate in the program? And if many more are qualified, what then will be the criteria for selection?
Well, every young person qualifies to be a part of the program. I think the important thing, as mentioned earlier, is the partnership. The coming together of the United Nations organs, the coming together of other development partners, the coming together of the private sector, and with the young people at the center themselves. So we say for the sake of tracking and for the sake of accountability, 20 million. However, this is a program that should benefit all 65 million young people in Nigeria. I'll just share a few examples from the global stage. And then just to also clarify one thing, that UNICEF is a secretariat to Generation Unlimited. UNICEF is not the conceiver of the idea. It's a secretariat to Generation Unlimited. It was launched in 2018 by the UN Secretary General himself, Antonio Guterres. So it's a UN propelled platform, so to speak. At the global level, it is chaired by two private sector captains of industry, Unilever and PricewaterhouseCoopers. And that infiltrates also down to country level. So India, for example, 300 million young people. What can Generation Unlimited do in a context like that? Just to give you an idea of what Nigeria could possibly do. So together with partners such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, they're building a digital platform and working with young Indians in tech to try and reach young Indians in rural and difficult to reach areas with different offerings. So whether it's skilling opportunities, whether it's entrepreneurial opportunities, or whether it is placement in jobs, etc., doing an analysis of what is required in the job market. What are the kind of jobs that exist, and where are the vacancies, and where are the skills that are lacking in young people, because we always hear about mismatch of skills, and then upskill young people so that they can be placed into those jobs. Brazil is another country that has created a similar platform. They are targeting 1 million young people. So everything is based on the population size of a country and how much the country can do. But I think the beauty of Generation Unlimited really is that young people have a voice and their agency is taken into account very seriously. President Kenyatta just said recently that the issues of young people are a defining agenda of our time. If we don't address them, we will see what the consequences are, things that we cannot live with. So for us, most importantly, is that because we work with young people and they are bright, they are quite engaged, and technology is helping them look at solutions in different places. They come together and say, these are the kind of solutions that we can put together. Can the private sector invest? Can government invest? I think that's the most important thing. And then they also, young people, can now hold the actors within Generation Unlimited accountable for those things that may not be delivered. But accountability is for every single one of us, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the UN agencies, whether it's the government agencies, whether it's the young people themselves. And we have to create that mechanism together.
Dr. Nadi, you are an advisor to Generation Unlimited. You in Nigeria, and then we want to believe that as a partnership, as an advisor in that regard, what did you come with to Nigeria, to people like Bank-Olemoh, and of course the implementing agencies, entrepreneurs, and the rest of them? What did you come with for them to work with, so that we can now get the youth a little bit excited about your role?
Okay, so I am an advisor globally, not to Nigeria. I advise for Generation Unlimited on partnerships globally. What I have come with, we started working with Bank-Olemoh and them in 2019 when I first came. And the first thing was to say, how do we bring different stakeholders together? So my role was to work together with them in terms of engaging the private sector and convincing the private sector that this is a viable opportunity that we all need to work together on. And I think it has already been mentioned, the huge participation and really quite successful participation of private sector partners at the launch, and already programs that have started since 2020 in terms of some of the offerings that the private sector can give. Jobberman has been mentioned, Airtel has been mentioned, we had Unilever Nigeria, we had PricewaterhouseCoopers, we had the Tony Alumelu Foundation, we had Access Bank, and a number of other partners that have come together to say, we are invested in this and we believe that we have to invest in our young people. What are the solutions that we can invest in? So based on what each sector can bring. So when you look at a private sector company like Unilever that has a net income of over 7 billion in Nigeria, and look at the products that they are giving out to the country. What are the kind of opportunities that we can create within this sector? We can look at a young professionals program where they can skill young people, upskill them, and help in partnership with Jobberman, ensure that they are placed into jobs. We can begin to work with young people to create entrepreneurial opportunities for them, and work with the Tony Alumelu Foundation to train them and give them the seed capital that they require to begin to set up their businesses. At the launch, we heard the story of a young lady called Jomoke who started her business from the seed money that was provided through an entrepreneurial enterprise with the Tony Alumelu Foundation, and is now basically a multi-million naira millionaire from the business that she had done. She started with one customer, she now has 4,000 customers. She's employing over 22 young people herself. So those are the kind of opportunities that we're trying to create, where not only young people are employed, but within the public sector or private sector, but where young people themselves are entrepreneurial enough to create businesses where they can employ other young people. Nigeria is renowned on the African continent for technology. You have one of the most tech-savvy youth on the continent, fintechs, agri-techs, your entertainment industry has exploded, competing even with Nollywood. Your music industry is one of the best in Africa. So there is a lot that Africa is also looking to from Nigeria to learn, so that we can get young people across the continent all working and contributing. So you don't have to just be an actor or a singer. Look at the value chain. Videographers, retail, logistics, etc. So those are the kind of opportunities that we want young people to see, even within the sports industry, that there are various other opportunities you can get into, and you can have jobs, and you can create a sustainable livelihood for yourself and for the community that you live within.
All right, thank you very much for your explanation, Dr. Nadi, but I still would like some clarification on, and the question is going to Bank-Olemoh. Who qualifies for participation in the program? It couldn't just possibly, I imagine, be every youth who is out there. And if every youth out there is qualified to participate in the program, there should be some eligibility criteria. So,
I think, thank you very much. I mean, I think it now depends on what intervention you're looking at. So like I said, where one of the key things we're working on, working with the telcos, is to connect as many schools as possible, and increase access to knowledge, access to the internet, better learning. So to do that, we're mapping schools. We're starting with Lagos and Kano, and we're mapping schools. So what we've tried to do, so how do we pick those schools? How are you eligible? So we've tried to map schools based on looking at Airtel, and we asked Airtel, where, based on your mass around the country, around the state, is it easy for you to provide internet access to the schools? And they've showed us that. And based on that, we're mapping those schools. So those schools, based on the numbers they can take, are eligible for that, and that's how we've done that. So if you look at the entrepreneurial skills we're going to be providing a lot of entrepreneurial skills. So if you're an entrepreneur and you feel that we're going to provide training maybe in financial literacy, in all those things. So it's now up to you to decide this is what we can do. Now, based on access, initially, we might say at this first phase, we're only able to take 100,000 underchild people in that number. Based on that, at that time, we're not going to drill down and say, based on that, first come, first serve basis. The first people to register for this are eligible, and that training goes. So ultimately, based on the interventions we're doing and what each private sector organization is bringing on board, we're able to take them in. There's going to be a strong internship placement in this also. So we want to place you in interns. So people like PwC have said that they are going to take interns. Airtel are going to take interns. So based on the numbers they're giving us, we're able to now drill down and say these are the criteria for the people we want, or we're going to do some assessments before you can come into this, get those opportunities that will come on. So as we drill down in different areas, we're able to engage that. But like you said, and I understand, and I totally understand where you're coming from. Because of my private sector background and also my experience in government, I totally understand that. And that's why, like I said earlier, for us in government, the key thing has always been private sector government partnership. And that is the way forward for us as a nation. If we want to solve big problems, check the history of Nigeria. The big problems we have solved is a partnership between the private sector and government. The challenge for governments, for us, is for us to be close enough to private sector, for them to trust us and partner with us, but for us to be far enough from them to be able to regulate them effectively. So look at the telecom industry as a good example of solving a big problem. You and I were in this country in the days of Nitel, where we had no access. But today, look at what we have in the telecom industry. Look at the second university education system. There was a time where we had only state and federal universities, tertiary institutions. But today, we have the private sector playing strongly in that space. And the reality is, based on the numbers we have and the data we see, in the next 10 years, we're going to have more private sector or private-owned tertiary institutions than government. So the key thing for us is to ensure that we partner well. Like I said, government is close enough to the private sector for them to trust us, but far enough from them to regulate them effectively.
You see, Bank-Olemoh, again, let's speak to this. Earlier, you indicated that we can't have too much, as it were, of interventions and programs. But I'm just trying to clarify this for viewers out there who are, of course, keen on taking advantage of GenU. Vice President, of course, was at the launch of GenU. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has been the champion of clinics being organized for MSMEs around the country. That's right. And one of the key focal areas has to do with finance and management, because it has also been observed that operators in the MSMEs lack skills in those regards. So, now you're talking about saying, look, we're going to get persons to get them skilled more in finance and perhaps management or entrepreneurship and all that. So how would somebody who is already benefiting from MSME also benefit from this, or it would be a new set of attendance that you would get from this other one?
I think one of the things maybe you're underestimating a bit is the number of people we have in this country. Let's look at the numbers. We say we have 60 million. Spain is 41 million people. Spain, as a nation, is 41 million people. Nigeria's youth population is 60 million people. Ghana is 25 million. Lagos. So it just tells you that, and those countries, those so-called small countries, are still struggling to reach all their youths. So think of the numbers that we need to reach. So yes, as a federal government, we have Empower, we have our youth ministry doing a lot of interventions in that area, we have our ministries, but the reality is we still have a huge number of people we've not reached. So to speak to you, the question for us is to ensure, like I keep saying and reiterating, that at the end, we create access and we ensure that the access is open to everybody, regardless of your religion, your ethnicity, your values. If you want to get skills, if you want to improve yourself, we as a government and as a private sector should be able to say that no Nigerian youth in this country if you're serious, because you have to be serious. If you're truly serious and you want to improve yourself, we have created different channels for you to improve yourself. Ultimately, the government will do their part, private sector will do their part, but ultimately it's left to the individual himself to want to improve himself. And I think where we are in this country is that if you are serious, if you're not just complaining, if you're serious and you want to improve yourself, there's enough platforms out there for you to get the skills that will make you relevant in the 21st century.
Are the portals, if any, open now, so that those who are listening to you can say, yes, I'm serious minded, I want to be part of this, how do I get in?
Rishna, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so what is happening when something is launched, one has invested a lot of time. Joboman is already active. We've already trained nearly 100,000 young people. Already we had a workshop in Kano, so the skill sets are there. The U reporters who are registered, if they are wanting to access more skills, these are platforms, the YOMA platform, which will be live very soon. They will be able to access that. What we are creating the YOMA platform, when you were saying about young people, when they register that, sometimes it is okay for a young person to have different skills, yeah? They can access from different programs, but what we are trying to do as a monitoring platform as well, and these are things in happening, is that we then track with an ID number that the same person, what are they accessing, so that we are not counting the same numbers from every other partners, and we are if somebody is yes. So that we have a track record, and then we help them to develop their CVs. So young people, if you also remember that there was a GenU challenge. It was a global challenge, and where actually on education intervention, out of the 42 countries globally participating, Maiduguri came first. One of their programs on Street to School program, which is online and offline digital learning. So there are different opportunities that are already out there. They are accessing. Joboman is already working. It's not something that they are not doing. It's a consolidation of what is happening, so that we continue by introducing more platforms.
No, yeah, fine. Just let our viewers know. I'm not applying for it.
Yes.
Neither is my colleague. I'm just saying, out there, again, from our national experience, we have seen from the social investment programs, Empower, Teach, Health, young persons, we have had them also as guests on Good Morning Nigeria, and they did disclose that they didn't have to know Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. X or Mr. Y, that there was an announcement that the portal was open, and then they applied, and they got into the scheme, and they were going well. That's what I'm saying now. For this generation unlimited, do you have such similar access? And if so, if you have the contact, assuming so we can put that on the screen, it can be scrolling while the conversation is going on. A number of young persons access this. Their uncles, aunties, and daddies and mummies could also access it. And for the serious-minded, it could actually be a launch pad for them.
Correct. One of the things that was mentioned earlier, that how do we reach the unreached? Yeah, one is the privileged who are reaching. So that is where, when we are saying about the 3.7 million young people, and that who are the U reporters, that is an excellent access to register into these platforms. And we are wanting to go more to 5 million by the end of next year, which is, we are partnering very closely. One of the access of young people is through the National Youth Services. So that's where we are partnering with them. They can easily access that, and then they can be part of the U reporters, as well as register for themselves with Joboman and with other Unilever. All of them are actually reaching young people. So as far as UNICEF is concerned, we are registering them through, in partnership with National Youth Council, as well as the U reporters.
Well, many thanks, Rushnan. It seems as if we are already on already, especially in Kano and Lagos, I believe.
Yes.
These are the two states you've piloted. We'll talk more about how they can really get there in Lagos and Kano, because Kinsley's question was really very important, talking about not knowing anybody in order to get something in this country, and this is another platform for that. But we'll do that after the break. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you from the NTA. We'll now take a break. Stay with us. Let's continue this conversation with Dr. Nadi. Let's hear from you, Dr. Nadi. As I said before the break, Nigerians watching and listening to this program will be very much excited talking about or feeling as if the moment we're out of this studio, some jobs are out there waiting for them. And they will now start asking, why do we go to, what do we do? You know, the U report is one of such. There are so many entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial outfits that we want to really be part of Generation Unlimited. Tell Nigerian youths that this initiative is being or can be, accessed in this way. And of course, this is what you need to do for a start and get across.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. What can we do together with Nigerian young people? The initiative is not just saying there are X number of jobs in a particular place and go line up and apply for them. What we're trying to say here is, how can we work together to improve the situation that we're in? We have a challenge and a crisis in terms of jobs. We have a challenge and a crisis in terms of opportunities for young people. Not every young person wants to be employed by somebody. Some young people want to be employers themselves and create opportunity for employment. There's so many different disciplines today. So when we look at the context of our education, are we preparing young people to be ready for sustainable livelihoods? Are we preparing young people to be able to say, I actually qualify to be in an X job? So we hear a lot today about skills mismatch. We have a lot of young people graduating, they will be hitting the tarmac looking for jobs, but they're not able to get jobs because those employers are looking for particular skills that don't exist. So what does Generation Unlimited want to do? We want to work together with those employers who say, these are the vacancies we have, but when we look into the job market, we don't see young people with those skills. We want to see the young people and what they have acquired in their education and say, which are the institutions we can work with to either reskill young people or to upskill young people or just to skill young people so that they can qualify for those jobs. Now the partnerships in Nigeria with Jobberman, with PricewaterhouseCoopers, with Access Bank, with Bank-Olemoh Foundation, etc., basically look at what are these kind of skills that we want within our contexts that lack. So what do? We either create internship opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities, or young professional opportunities so that these young people can apply for those opportunities with the minimum criteria. So if you're a graduate but you don't have XYZ skills, we can take you on board and help you acquire those skills through a reskilling program so then you can get an employment. Because what is currently happening is basically employers are saying, we're looking into the market, we don't see young people with the skills, so we can't bring them on board. And we're saying, no, take them on board, reskill them, upskill them so that they can fit into those jobs. Alternatively, you're looking at where are the opportunities within the entrepreneurial space. Some of the new thinking now that needs to be infused into education are critical, foundational skills, transferable skills, soft skills, and various competencies so young people can actually fit into the job market. And I think also we talked a lot about criteria, eligibility, etc. If you're in a secondary school or in primary school and you're interested in entrepreneurship, we're saying if we modernize education and we include those critical skills within the education system, by the time young people are getting to the age of 16, 18, want to go into the job market, they have those foundational skills that are required for them to fit within different workforces. But you have to look at opportunities to be created across different fields: technology, agriculture, the medical sector, the sports sector, the entertainment sector, etc. So there's a wide plethora of opportunities across the board, but we are only utilizing a very small percentage of that. So together in this partnership of Generation Unlimited, how do we put our minds together and our hands together so that we can be able to look at this expansive space and see how we can capitalize and maximize on the opportunities that exist?
Dr. Nadi, well, the more rational and Bank-Olemoh, the more we discuss this, the more everyone realizes, Nadabo, that look, this is a huge program, a huge program. Earlier you were talking about reskilling persons with soft skills, which is one of the complaints you have from some potential employers in Nigeria. You're also talking about transferable skills. If I'm a graduate in one field and I want to get into another field, how do I move? But people have to be aware that these opportunities for skilling and reskilling are there. That's why I'm saying that this is potentially a very huge program. What is the lifespan of this program in contemplation?
The program's actually been set up to 2030 in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And at the global level, we're looking at 1.8 billion young people between the ages of 10 and 24. The aim is to have them all either in an education or in training, skilling programs, or in jobs by 2030. So that's the lifespan of the program.
Okay, thank you. Bank-Olemoh.
Yes, sir.
Now, this, of course, you are SSA to the President on education. What role is envisaged for the subnational entities in this?
I mean, thank you very much for that. I mean, I surprised we've not spoken to that. Most this intervention in states will be supervised under the governor's office, on each state. And we're engaging, like I said, what we've done is 2 states per geographical zones. We're going to have 12 states. We're starting with Lagos and Kano. And in each of those states, it's for us to ensure that when we're doing because ultimately, when I tell people, let me just digress a bit, is when we say we have a challenge in Nigeria, the reality is that the challenge, Nigeria is artificial. It's the states themselves, that make up Nigeria. So if we have job challenges in Nigeria...
Qualify that artificiality so that you were not mistaken.
Oh, no. In the sense that, as an education person, we have about 10 million out of school students in Nigeria. When you drill that out to 10 million, it speaks to states. So Lagos has how many states? Ogun State has how many states? When you pull all that together, that is Nigeria. But individually, Kano, how many out of school children do we have in Kano? So the challenge is for the state governments themselves to engage these problems, and ensure that we solve those problems. If not, it's just spoken to Nigeria when we aggregate it. But individually, those challenges are in each of our states. That's what I'm speaking to. So yes, with Lagos and Kano. So in Lagos and Kano, the Kano State Governor was there himself. He was there. The Lagos State Governor had a representative. So we are working with them to ensure that this intervention in these states are engaged. And also because a lot of the private sector organizations, you can find them in Lagos and you can find them in Kano. It makes those interventions straightforward. So like you said, we'll be working with the state governments when we need to. But the reality of this intervention is that it's more private sector driven in the sense that the employment, the reskilling is more often done by private sector. They are the ones that are going to employ these people. They're the ones that have the capacity to do a lot of employment. Government in itself, how many people can we really take in? So yes, that's what we're going to be doing, working with the states when we need to, but ultimately working with private sector in each of these states, to provide these skills and opportunities for the average Nigerian. And to answer your question also on how will the Nigerian youths know, the reality is that you're going to be getting a lot of announcements from us from GenU at different organizations. So for example, we are working with PwC now to put in place a program. Once that is done in the next few weeks or months, that announcement will come that there's an opportunity in PwC to this extent, and people will be able to access that. Same with all these organizations. So those are the things we are now drilling down to work on to ensure that we give as many Nigerian youth opportunity as possible.
Tell those who are in the rural areas the meaning of PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, so that we don't say PwC.
Apologies. PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Okay, Bank-Olemoh, you started talking about the subnationals.
Yeah.
Let's see. For a start, there are 2 states at the moment, Kano and Lagos. Yeah. And Dr. Nadia have already started hinting on, how it's spread to geopolitical zones. Yeah. You have maybe two in each geopolitical zone, and one of which is Borno in the northeast, and then Bauchi.
I don't have the numbers.
Yes,
I
yes, Borno, Bauchi,
Borno, Bauchi in the northeast.
Yes,
I'm just
Borno,
asking
Bauchi,
this question against the background of the fact that, especially in Borno and the northeast, that area is more or less, where insecurity, originated.
I was in
so much.
I was in Maiduguri like a month ago.
Right now, the crime may not be that as in Lagos or in Kano and some other most peaceful, if I may use the word in quotes, of states. How do you intend to approach this very program, talking about the insecurity in some parts of this country?
I mean, a lot of people. I was in Bank-Olemoh a month ago, and I must tell you that yes, we have issues, but the average Nigerian is moving on with their life. So we're going to do that. I visit a lot of schools, a lot of institutions, and all that. Like one of the things we're going to be doing. I mean, the Street to School initiative is one of the things. Like you spoke to, where it was won by students in Maiduguri, sharp young guys. And what they've tried to do. What did they try to do? They're trying to say, how do we help our people learn more by using WhatsApp groups? By using online and also offline systems. So interventions like that, we're going to scale this kind of things up to attract more people. School systems, as we have it there within those systems, we're going to bring technology and connect a lot of them also to have more internet access in those schools. So depending on each state, and the challenges on each state, you probably find out that we're doing more in this state based on their local challenges than we're doing in other states. One of the key things about GenU is flexing it to speak to each country and ultimately each subnational, and that's what we're going to keep doing as we go ahead.
Dr. Nadia, I wanted to speak to this first before we come back to the UNICEF Deputy Country Rep. The involvement of the private sector in GenU, is it a form of CSR, that's corporate social responsibility, or what incentives are there for private sector participation?
Okay, that's an excellent question. It's not CSR. Companies, private sector is increasingly beginning to realize their own survival is dependent on the population. And when we have this demographic boom and you have all these young people, they are employees, they are potential employees, they are your potential consumers, they are your potential service providers, etc. If we don't harness this potential, where will the private sector be tomorrow? So private sector is cognizant of the critical and pivotal role that young people play in their very own survival, and that's why they are on board. It's not CSR, it's about doing business the right way and doing good business for you to survive.
Okay, now Roshan, what, as the Secretariat for GenU, what is in general the operating template? In other words, how should a country approach it, and what are the pitfalls that each implementing country should watch out for?
I think to begin with, I just want to build on also what Dr. Nadi has mentioned, is that a little bit on where also private sector comes, and then I will come to your question, is when we look at, it's not only, I think that's where we start, it's not only about giving jobs, this platform is looking holistically what the needs of young people are. So if I take private sector, today, if we are wanting to do school-to-school connectivity, if we are wanting more schools to access internet, how do I work with Airtel? How do I work with IHS towers? It's not about getting the money and they're employing people, but they're giving the connectivity, and it is within a infrastructural, ICT structure that where they will operate. So I think this is part of private sectors, and it's beyond CSR. It is about doing business and doing business smart. And then coming back to some of the challenges, I think to keep the momentum, to keep it focused, to see that as many young people actually gets opportunity of what their needs are. But more than that, I think one of the issues that we will be looking at more is how do we make it not gender neutral, but also to see whether there are opportunities that are also reaching the girls as well as the boys, or the males and the females as well. So I think that is one of the areas. The second area I would see is to look at, while digital learning and digital skilling is very critical, how do we keep and provide skills to young people where they are, and not only transfer them to the urban, that's where the jobs are. So how do we look at more at the agriculture, more at skilling them where they are, so that we don't do the movement. So I think there are a lot more to be done, and as is mentioned, the GenU is a platform where all these thought processes, all these things are coming together and looking at who is best positioned to reach that and do that. So I would say, and then we have the steering committee, which is very much led by the vice president himself, with the vice chairs being private sector and UNICEF, plus with a lot of development partners, the young people, and other private sectors in partnership. So I would want to believe that GenU is also a think tank to see that how we can approach in a multiple way and meet the needs of young people.
Dr. Rushnan, we are now racing against time, but let's see what justice we can do to this very important question. This program has a lifespan up to around 2030, I believe. And then for a start, you have 2 states, Lagos and Kano, as pilot states where this has been implemented. And you've spread it across geopolitical zones, where we have 2 from each geopolitical zone. And that is the intention, I think, I don't know, of reaching out to all Nigerians through all the states by 2030. Give us a breakdown of how these phases are. How far or how long will Lagos enjoy and Kano enjoy this, and then move on to the other zones, and then of course Nigeria generally, because we are listening, it's the government.
Yes, so I would say that there are 2 ways to look at it. One is that when we are talking about Kano and Lagos, we are looking at some of the interventions which are critical. So when we are talking about school-to-school connectivity, we cannot go to all schools now. So that's where we look at piloting, we are mapping the schools, and then to see how we introduce the online platform, online learning, like learning passport, that is, the content is already being developed by the government. There are also opportunities when we are talking about Generation Unlimited challenges, where it is across, it is not stopping in these 2 states as well. So again, I would want to believe that it is a continuum of learning, and so there are different parts that we are doing for the entire country, because the challenge is not limited to Lagos and Kano. But in Kano, we are looking at Al-Majiri children. So as Fela was mentioning, context specific. So then that is a critical need that we need to look at. So that's how we are approaching this.
Okay.
And just further to that, the skills, the opportunities you have online is not state specific. You can whatever state you are in all around the country, you have, if you feel those skills that you can get, you want those skills, you can go online and get those skills. We have those access. So yes, in the area of things that we're doing infrastructure based now, Lagos and Kano, but all the trainings are open to Nigerians across the country.
Wherever they are.
Wherever they are.
Yes, I just would like Bank-Olemoh to speak to this because of our national experience. Is it that the skilling or reskilling will be mostly virtual, or you will also have in-class programs? I'm asking this question against the background of what the expectations should be of participants in a program of this nature. Sometimes not many will realize that for you to acquire skills, you have to pay for it. But they could also say that, the federal government said we should participate in this, So at the end of every week, they say, they never give us our allowance.
I understand.
Yes,
totally.
you understand what I'm saying?
Totally.
So, all right, so
totally.
speak to that.
I mean, each intervention will be specific, depending on what we're doing. So, for example, interns, you'll find out that in some organizations that provide interns, those organizations more often than not might provide some stipend for those interns. So you will get those interns you get those stipend at that level. I know that every Nigerian youth would not say no to the opportunity to get something. But one of the key things we've said here, and I think it's critical for the Nigerian youth, is the attitude behind it. It's just the right attitude. I believe strongly, and I've engaged youth at different platforms. I still believe that this is the most blessed generation in the history of mankind. The kind of access you have is unparalleled. I mean, we didn't have that while growing up. The things you can know, the things you have on the internet that you can access and change your life, those are skills that most of us did not get until we left university, and you're getting it now in your secondary school, So those opportunities are there, If with the right mindset, with the right attitude, you can equip yourself and change things. I tell people every time, do we have challenges in Nigeria? Yes, we do, just like every other country in the world. But if you take the opportunities it throws at you, you can change your own story and change your own timeline.
When you talk about this, you talk about out-of-school children. We talk about some other, section of Nigeria that don't have access, to some of these basics for reaching out.
Yeah.
How are you going to address that? Rushman talked about the Almajiri being the
face to face. You can't divorce face-to-face interactions. Yes, COVID-19 of recent has forced everybody to rethink things. But yes, we're going to have a lot of face-to-face interventions. I think one of the things we've said, and I will keep saying, is that we look at everything based on the context in each state. So any intervention you're doing will speak to the context of states. Yes, you might do a lot of technology-based training in a place like Lagos, but if you go to other parts of the country, you might have to do more face-to-face training, obeying COVID rules and all that.
Or
so yes, so we're going to be doing a lot of intervention that speaks to this. It is like we've said here, a lot of thinking is still going into delivering at each level. And it's a 10-year project, so when it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you're going to see us tweak even some things that we're starting now. In the next 2 years, might not be the same thing that we have now because we're going to retweak it. But I think it's a commitment that, yes, the private sector, United Nations, the federal government, the state government, development partners in Nigeria are committed to ensuring that we change the narrative for over 20 million Nigerian youths.
Well, I think we can really round up here because we're running short of time. We thank you so much, Obafemi Bank-Olemoh, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Education Intervention. It's a pleasure being part of this discussion this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Nadi Albino, Senior Advisor, Partnership Generation Unlimited. Thank you so much for being part of this program this morning.
Thank you.
And of course, we must thank you most sincerely, Rushnan Murtaza, Deputy Representative, UNICEF Nigeria. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And a very big thank you also to you out there for being part of Good Morning Nigeria today with this